Come here. Hi, and welcome back to another video. One of my favorite things to watch on YouTube is kiln unloading videos, and while I don't have my own kiln and I do fire at a community studio, I do have a good haul today, so I thought it would be fun to show you the pieces that I picked up from the community kiln. Starting off with one of my favorites, I have this Lily of the Valley mug. I have done many iterations of this mug, but this is my very first one that I threw on the wheel and then attached the Lily of the Valley details. I usually hand build this style, but since I have been practicing throwing, I really wanted to throw a mug and just have that perfect round shape. I also love the little handle with the crinkles on it. And to be honest, I have been having issues with little pinholes in my glaze, usually just on the outside, so it doesn't make a difference to the functionality of the piece, but this one is literally perfect. The glaze turned out amazing. I might need to refine my dipping skills because I'm noticing the ones where I painted the glaze on turned out much better. But here she is. I knew glaze firing this mug was a risk. As you can see here, there is a crack on the handle. I used wear repair to try to mend the crack, and clearly I was not successful. I see people at the studio fix cracks all the time and they cover them so nicely. I've honestly never successfully filled a crack, so if anybody has advice for that, please let me know. This next piece is my very favorite and I am keeping it for myself. I was inspired by various artists on Pinterest to create a shelf to store my shelves. My shelves. Here she is. I mean, look at this! My vision for this piece is to display shells that I found along my travels. If you know me, you know that one of my favorite things in the world is frolicking on the seaside and collecting pretty rocks and shells. I could do that every day, all day. I had really high hopes for these next two pieces, and while they are still beautiful, they're not as detailed as I had hoped. Here's the bowl. I painted some little branches with underglaze. The leaves pretty much just look like one solid green, but I had actually painted a lot of detail into them. When I was living in Mallorca with the ceramicist, she had taught me a very interesting underglaze technique where when you paint leaves, you layer different shades of green, and then once the top layer is semi-dry, you scratch it off using a dot tool to reveal the other glaze underneath. So I tried to recreate that effect in my own style, and it didn't really turn out. It still looks good, but it was a lot of work for simple leaves. I think the problem is the two shades of green that I used were too close to one another, so ultimately they just ended up blending together. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with these pieces. I also have a big cup or maybe a little planter, but there is no drainage holes. But yeah, this one is done in the same style. I think these would make a beautiful set. Next up, I have two little green bowls. They're done on a brown clay body. And as you might have seen in my last video, I have these little dishes in blue as well. And these are going to be for my cleansing sets. This first one turned out beautifully. I love the foot on it. However, the second one did have a little bit of a glaze defect on the inside. I took my Dremel and I drilled it so it's flat, but you can see the scuff marks from where I drilled. These are not intended for food use. They're made to hold Palo Santo, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. For these next two pieces, I tried a new glaze combination that is okay, but it's not really my style. I have this little blue cup. This combination is made from the Studio Glazes, and the bottom one is bright sky blue dipped with French vanilla, and my very favorite combination is dark green layered with French vanilla on top, and that creates a very beautiful drippy green effect, and it looks like a shoreline. It almost resembles the break of a little wave on the shoreline where the water kind of fuses into a lighter tone. I feel like I'm not describing that very well, but I wanted to try that with blue instead of green. It almost created more of a color block effect than a smooth gradient. So I don't think I would ever layer these two glazes on top of one another. That is why it's important to make test tiles, and of course I don't take my own advice. So I almost always fire my pieces on cookies or stilts, and I had put this piece on stilts, but I think whoever picked it up and put the stilts in the kiln put it on kind of crooked, because you could see the two dots from where the stilt was, and then the third one was actually on the side of the mug, so the glaze fused around it. Luckily it didn't stick and I was able to grind it down, but there was a hole from that last little sharp piece of the stilt, which it's no big deal. It didn't really affect the piece, but I thought that was kind of funny. I also did the same glaze combo on this bowl, but instead of just dipping it straight down, I also splattered the French vanilla on top of the blue. Again, it didn't blend very nicely. You could very much see where the brush strokes are, which does not happen with the green. You can also see on the inside where I applied the second layer of glaze. So this little bowl is completely functional, but I don't love it. Maybe somebody out there will like this. Now for my last pieces, I have a bunch of these little leaf pendants. Really, you can hang them anywhere. I still need to attach the cord. So I use a dipping glaze, but I paint it on really loosely, and then once it dries, I just rub it so the darker parts end up in the veins of the leaves, and then the lighter parts and the raw clay show through a little bit. This method does not work with all glazes, but these ones, yes. I also pressed some cedar branches, and I have them in the same two colors. And if you watched my last video, I mentioned trying out one of our mystery reclaim glazes, and it turns out the light reclaim is actually a baby blue. And I was shocked to discover that. So I think I'm just gonna keep this one as a little test tile for myself, and rubbing the glaze didn't really make the effect I wanted with this one, but that's okay. It's a small piece, not much of a loss there. So those are all of the pieces that I picked up from this kiln haul. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope it's not too long and rambly. I just wanted to show off some of my recent pieces. I'm very happy with this unloading. It is really hard with ceramics when I have a very set vision in my mind, but there's so many different steps to execute it properly that it definitely doesn't always happen on the first try, and that's okay. I am patient, I'm determined, so we are gonna get there eventually. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. Thank you so much for being here. Bye!